Hello guys, welcome to my channel, Priceless Freedom. My name is Sarah and thank you so much for clicking to watch this video. In today's video, we will be going over our September recap. And so when I do recaps, I print out our bank statements to go over every expenditure we had for the month, and then I will show you guys how I input it into our monthly budget form that we use. So I just printed out my bank statement for the month of September. I color code everything based off of what category it will go to into the budget form. This is the color scheme that I am following, and so if you look, it correlates with this. So income is in pink, here pink. If I had any food, it would be in this like turquoise color. If I had anything for school, it was in this orange. Clothing was brown, etc., etc. Throughout the entire month. And then I totaled everything up over here, and I figured out what I need to plug in into the monthly form online. That way, I've checked everything to make sure that I am accounting for everything. And so then when I plug it in, I know that I'm plugging in the right numbers. And for my mother, I did the exact same thing, printed out hers, but her bank doesn't go based off of month to month. It has different periods, so I just did accordingly. And so I just got from September 1st till the 31st, as you guys can see right here. I just went through color coordinated everything, and then listed down the numbers. So I'll be plugging in. So this is the budget form that I'll be taking you guys through. This is for the month of September 2021. And for the housing program, or at least the house buying program we are working with, they require that we fill in the information of who is going to be on the mortgage loan, and then the dependents and people who are going to be living in the household. So here on the top, we have gross income for my mother and then for myself. So there are 3 columns if you look here, and all the different categories. One is for workshop, actual, and goal. So when you are at a workshop, that's typically a meeting with a counselor. They will ask you, what do you think your expenses for your housing is, or your debt, or your utilities, your food, etc., etc. Then you will list down what you think you're at. Then at the end of the month, you'll look at what you actually spend. Then from that, you can be able to figure out what you want to set as a goal. And this should be realistic goals based off of what you can afford typically. Whenever we get paid, fill in this form. So if you see there's some parts that actually have numbers already plugged in, and that was at the last paycheck. I believe the first paycheck of the month, I went in and plugged in what we were at for certain expenses. So if you see numbers, that's why. I'll just go in briefly to make sure these numbers are accurate, and they end up being right. I believe that one is correct. That one should be right. This one should be correct. That's correct. That's correct. And if you see here, you can see that there are some numbers adding up to this total right here. And that's what I meant by, on this form, we're able to populate or get a calculation from the computer of what we're at. I don't have to do it by hand or with a calculator. So this is really, really, really helpful. Okay, so for that, that's what we paid. I'm just gonna take you guys through how I just plug it in. I might not be talking too much for this video. It will just be me plugging in numbers, just so that you get an idea of what I do to track on this form. So for that, you want to put in what was owed for that month overall, and then here you want to put in what you paid. If you notice, some of my columns, my workshop and actual columns, are higher than my goal. And that's because sometimes we end up paying extra For like debt, we try to pay it off sooner. So goal is typically what we're supposed to pay as a median for the month. But if we ended up trying to pay something off faster, our actual and workshop will be higher. And if our income was willing, which typically it is, we'll just adjust the goal to match that. And sometimes you can see, like right here, this is 50 for the student loan I have, but there is no payment, and that's fine too. You want to make sure that your goal is either at or above what your actual and your workshop amounts are. And because we've already had our workshop, I just keep our actual and workshop the same number. It's kind of redundant, but it's just to keep the format of what we were given from the house buying program. Okay, let me see here. Fine, that should be fine. And sometimes I do leave the goal at whatever number we wanted it to be at, so that I can see how much extra we're paying for things or spent, just to get an idea of whether our goals for the next month need to be adjusted accordingly. Okay, let's see here. So we ended up getting a little bit back from these people. So I'm just gonna keep that the same. Let me see. 379. Good. And I should have that was put in there and that was put on the top. Great. Okay. Mobile is the same. Internet equals 2.5. That's right. Over. And if you see here, the goal was 100, even though what we actually spend is 92. Sometimes it's 98, so I just keep it at 100 just to be safe. And some of the goals, you'll see that for the actual and workshop, there are zeros. Those are either monthly goals that we have, like if an expense of that type does come up, this is what we're hoping to spend on it. And let's see, like for this right here, for water and sewer, we don't pay for water and sewer at this time, but to be realistic, when we actually do buy our home, we will be paying for water and sewer. So we just have a goal of like 180, and that's just to see if at the end, like, are we able to afford something like that? Are we being realistic with ourselves with the kind of home we want and what we're gonna end up paying for utilities, things like that. Okay, groceries. This one is going to be long. Oops. Look at that. We were 101 under our goal for food, which is great. I was really freaking out thinking that we were overspending, but this makes me feel really good that this 400 is a realistic goal. Okay. And other food and beverages really should be household items. This is where we put down toiletries. Next we have is transportation. You guys see here, we were about like almost $11 over our goal. Gas is very variable. You can't predict what it's going to end up being. So in this situation, I'll just drag this over. It's just about $11 over. We made a net a lot more than we were expecting, so that ends up balancing out. We don't have any daycare expenses, so that's always going to be at 0. Now for school, this is the tricky one. I already have money saved up for school, so this is harder to track because this was money I put into the savings just to help boost it up. It's not necessarily what I actually paid for school, if that makes sense. And we'll adjust this later. And that was higher than our annualized goal. So if you go here, let me take a calculator. And we do 500 times 12. Our goal for the entire school year, so fall semester and spring semester, is to spend 600. So if we want, you can go ahead and put 300 down here as a goal because I will not be paying for books anymore. And now we are done. And we can just remove this note and keep it as such. Or I'll just leave a little thing for fall semester. And, oh, there's fall semester. Then that everything else should be good. Okay, next is clothing. We had some returns for clothing, so you can see that there are a few two numbers that I am deducting from the total. And that's gonna make it like 30 something in total. And then let's see what mother did. So that's good. Next is medical. Yeah, that's good. And then in other, we have tithes and offerings, subscriptions, donations, fitness, sport events, etc., etc. And then I added in electronics, savings, and home repairs because there's nowhere else that I could think of that would work for this. It just didn't make sense in my mind. So you see that some things are written in blue, and these are notes. They're just to figure out like, oh, why don't you have a home like number? It's because it actually is paid with the internet service that we have. And I have a note saying that this number includes our home bill. So if that helps you guys figure out like, oh, technically this one expense covers for multiple things, you can just note it in your chart that it covers for that. So then when you're trying to look it up, you're like, oh, yep, there it is. Okay, let's finish other. And here at the bottom, I am just filling in what we put in towards our house savings. And in this chart at the bottom, it shows what your total expenses were for the month. And then it deducts what you made in your net overall. And it deducts your expenses so you can see what you have left over. And then the home buying program we're in set a goal for us, well, for everyone. They want you to at least save $200 per month. And so then at the bottom you show how much you're committed to saving, or how much you did save towards your home. And then here there's a daily expense chart, and I'll show you guys that. And if you have any expenses that you do every single day, Monday, from Sunday all the way to Saturday, you can chart it on here, and this will help you figure out like what your daily expenses are that you may need to reduce, or if you can't do without these things, it's another way to track them. If there's something that you do like literally every single day, like some people get coffee every single morning to go to work, so that's a coffee every single day for 5 days in a week. So then you just plug in some numbers here and it will populate what your monthly total is. Once you get that, you can go back to this chart and plug in what that number is. So I'm just gonna go through and make sure that everything I put in was right. I'm not gonna be too concerned about this. I can clean this up later when I go through the statements again. I always check and recheck to make sure everything's good. So I'm just gonna make sure that what I want for the workshop and actual is either meeting the goal or the goals above that. And if you see the net income, that's just because I want to see what we were expecting for ourselves and what we actually ended up getting. If we didn't have a goal, you can see like for this part-time job, there's not really a goal for that. It's whatever comes. So then the goal ends up equaling that. So this goal was a little unrealistic for this month, and that's fine. The annual goal, because this is annualized, we'll just do 60, no. We will do 60 times 12 and see the goal overall was 720. And this was 85, I would say. So I'm just gonna put in an 85. And you want to make sure that when you're going through this, that the goal ends up being greater than the grand total for that category. And let me just see. And here it's saying that our net income was not enough to cover for our expenses, and that makes sense because we did go over some of our goals. Like here for school, that went a little over. And this was a big expense. And luckily, we will not be having that. If I want, I can reduce this to 300. I'll leave it for now. And now I'm just gonna go and adjust our net income. I'm gonna adjust this too. That's actually what we ended up doing. Oops. You see here, our gross is way more than our goal. Our goal is what our actual amount of money we expected to come in was. And then our actual and workshop is what we actually earned. So you can see there was quite a difference. So that ends up playing into what we spent for the month. And then we see here, it's still saying that we went over, and that's okay. I will go through and adjust numbers accordingly to make sure that this number isn't in the negative, because then it's showing that our goals are unrealistic for our expenses. Here if you see there's like almost a $2,000, a little under a $2,000 difference. So I'll just go in and just make sure that our numbers are not way too high. Here this number is not matching, so I will make sure it matches. Oops, not take it away. Match. There you go. I'm gonna reduce this to 300. It's not gonna make too much of a difference. And I might reduce this because we're not trying to spend that much for a mortgage. I might end up adjusting that for all the months to come afterwards because we don't want to spend it that high. This, I believe, is our limit, so that should actually end up cleaning everything up. There you go. You got a monthly available balance of $50, which is very, very low. We wanted it to be just enough so that we can have the 900, but that's okay. As you guys saw, that there were some expenses that went over our budget or our goal, especially school. But for the next month to come, I will not be needing to pay for school until spring semester. So that $1,200 that went to school, to the school savings, will not be there for next month, which will be great. I can just take that out, make it disappear, and then we'll have more than enough for savings for the next month to come. So I hope this video was helpful in utilizing this form and how at least I use it and plug in numbers. You guys were able to see me plug in. And if you're having a hard time like figuring out how did you get the thing to like add up all together at the bottom, like how did you do that, I can make this form accessible to others. So if you guys are interested in possibly utilizing this and you'd like the one that I am using, please leave a comment down below and I will try my best to figure out how to get this out to you guys. And whenever I get that figured out, if that's something you guys are interested in, I'll make sure to inform you guys. So thank you very much for watching this video, and I hope it was helpful. See you guys in the next one. Bye.